welcome back to the revolutionary cybernetic socialist conversation. Today we are going to talk about again about the people's AI takeoff, more speculative operation compared to the bourgeois and imperialist AI takeoff already underway. And we're going to try to contextualize this by giving some numbers and estimates for the kind of improvement that would be achieved by pursuing the open source large language model AI agentic work group as workforce multiplier that is human guided. This is something I've described as a dramatic workforce multiplier and intelligence enhancer relative to traditional work methods. And we're going to compare that if that work group were not, say, dedicated to public works projects or governance, but rather solely to, in this analysis, solely to the pursuit of artificial intelligent recursion or self-improvement of advanced systems such that they are able to do a good deal more, ultimately allowing humans to do more and more with less and less until you can do virtually anything with virtually nothing. I do not think that this is a unrealistic prospect for this era. And so this pursuit of a self-improving advanced computing system is not a new one, of course, but by some of my estimates here, we would see approximately 1,000-fold reduction in the need for man hours and resources by pursuing this AI agentic work group as a workforce multiplier, as opposed to human researchers using traditional computing but no large language work group of a highly automated kind at the center. So that's a significant improvement. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that might be the case, and it's perhaps worth mentioning that this idea that advanced computing recursion is a far-off possibility or an unrealistic possibility. You should not dismiss people who say that. They definitely have a point, and they generally do know quite a lot about advanced computing. But you can also find people who say that the internet should not be able to exist, and at any moment could collapse because it shouldn't exist at all. And people will say this about a lot of kinds of things. It's not that difficult to come up with a theory of why something is unfeasible and at risk of collapse. And these are not always as credible as they seem at first glance. On the other hand, when you look at a world of advanced computing conspiracy theories, perhaps, some people do say that this AI self-improvement is something that has been effectively achieved in some high-end labs, but has not been implemented, or has been implemented on the sly in a limited way, because to let others know that you are in possession of such a thing could cause geopolitical instability, or could cause something like the nationalization or fascistic nationalization of your laboratory by the powers that be, And that is more speculative than saying that AI recursion is not realistic in our time, but I don't think so much more speculative. When you consider that an awful lot of people are inclined to think that um, Google Labs could have, if they wanted to, rolled out something like the Chat GPT craze, the digital assistant product line years before. They were holding these things back because their job is not really to provide people with products of this kind. They sometimes have in the past, but this is something of a potentially more transformative kind. And their job is really, they're a military contractor, and their job is to serve empire and private wealth. And so anything that deviates too much from that mandate is something that they are going to put the brakes on rather than rush through. And that seems to pretty well describe their approach to these stronger digital assistants. They only started providing these at all when other companies began providing them, even though they had a massive amount of machine learning data and power prior to that time. And their argument for why they didn't do this is that it would have potentially had some kind of backlash, like things that happened with Microsoft's Tay, where a chatbot started to be used, and then it was used to make a lot of dirty jokes, and that became the obsession of the news cycle, and the product was pulled. They assumed that things like this would happen. That's what they have said in a couple of contexts with things along these lines, but I'm not inclined to believe that that's really the truth. I'm inclined to believe that it's more that imperial and financial capital mandate contradicting this mandate to see that a tremendous amount of man hours are flooded into the space for workers. So let's look at this AI self-improvement possibility in this human-guided large language model work group of the kind that I've talked about a lot as the agentariat, this workforce multiplier, versus the pursuit of this through early 20th century mechanisms, a group of researchers doing it, still using computers, but not on this open source large language model a network mass that we've described many times. This large language network would act as a highly autonomous, or at least a semi-autonomous and quite intelligent agent. This era of the open source large language model AI agent is the one that we are presently entering. You can download things that are more agentic than they were a few months ago, and that will continue to be the case to the point where we have open source large language models, I think in 2025, that are able to have insights into their behavior and engage in planning in a way that pushes up to that of a human being, and the ways that they are better than human beings, such as mass collaboration and being tireless in their efforts, will allow them to do a tremendous amount of work with human assistance, which would be required in 2025 or perhaps for the next few years, because these semi-autonomous agentic LLMs would nevertheless get very confused very quickly or begin to hallucinate. And that's the language that's used, AI hallucinate, quite quickly if they are not kept on the rails by human beings. But even if that were not the case, let's say in 2029 that's no longer the case, I still would contend that it's a very good idea to keep humans at the center of these things. That is a major failing of Western technologists and Western tech obsessives. So they seem to be interested in building a machine that does not serve human beings, but rather having human beings serve the machine. And so continuing this trend of the neoliberal era, of the end of the belief in the West of the power of the socialist, and the belief in the West of the capitalist realist assertion that the downtrend of life expectancy and quality of life that would naturally be associated with no longer believing that you have to provide services or a hospitable environment for human beings. This is a world that we live in, and this is a world that shapes the thinking of these technologists and tech obsessives to such a degree that you would say that almost all of these people are sociopaths. They are interested in technology, but not interested in, say, using advanced technology to build a humane and sustainable economic system. They would encourage you to imagine all sorts of magical things occurring because of advanced computing and advanced technology, but somehow among those things is not building a sustainable world, or a world where these things serve human beings, but rather where they serve private wealth and empire more or less exclusively. This is a highly problematic worldview of the so-called techno-optimist, but it's not distinctly different from that of any other real Westerner living under this capitalist realist fantasy. And so that is another problem with transhumanists and terrestrial folks, these technologists and tech obsessives, is that they present what they are doing as something distinct from the existing technocracy, the existing neoliberal technocracy, but they are also neoliberal technocrats. So really all that they have is a little more science fiction kind of language than the existing technocrats, but in practice nothing distinct from what's already being done. You have two neoliberal parties, the duopoly, ruling the United States with an iron fist, maintaining this empire that is a $1 trillion a year military-industrial complex, the world's worst polluter, and whose only real job on the world stage is protecting other super polluters. For someone to say that they're offering something different, when in practice they're offering nothing of the kind, except perhaps a more rapid move towards fully realized techno-fascism, which is the path that we're on. As I said, we're in the midst of techno-fascistic AI takeoff, and we need to seize those advanced computing means of production and see that this is built into people's AI takeoff. What are some advantages then of the so-called LLM agentic work group for building AI recursion? This is a major difference for this in general is that it requires very little expertise or labor on the part of human users. It requires that they download the open source large language model that is now sufficiently agentic. I believe it's sufficiently agentic to really begin this work in earnest in 2024, that is right now, but then new downloads would be done on the part of the users as these things improve, quite quickly, I think, so that by 2025, if the work were begun in earnest, if the work were begun now, by 2025 you could have something that is powerful enough to, say, make some real headway toward this recursion project, or governance projects, or public works projects, the three things that I've tended to focus on this channel as uses for this agentic work group. So this workforce multiplier brings greater creativity on the part of these users who have more free time and are able to basically operate on what I've called the Sleeping Beauty principle, where they're just answering a few emails throughout the course of a day or week and guiding or steering the agentic mass, which is really doing the lion's share of the work. And this allows human beings to act in a more intuitive way, a more creative way, more concern for the larger picture and ethical considerations therein. And the large language model network, which has if it has, say, 1 million users operating to this, 1 million LLMs operating to this recursion project, providing a vast processing power, data analysis, and existing learning capabilities of its own within that work group, even before the recursion project is complete. The large language model can automate repetitive tasks and work endlessly, freeing up the human collaborators, human researchers for concerns with the more complex aspects, concerns focusing more on the strategy and problem solving for the project being discussed, in this case, a self-improving advanced computing capability. This open source large language model work group can facilitate communication and knowledge sharing between existing operations and researchers doing similar work worldwide, building on that work, accelerating processes and progress. That is, of course, a major failing of the for-profit systems is that every one of these operations is siloed, highly protective of their work. They're hoping to monetize it and prevent others from scooping them. So what you have is people independently inventing the wheel many, many times over and over again, rather than pooling their resources and genius into larger and larger projects, as would be the case in this world of the AI agentariat. Some potential downsides: building and refining both the large language model agentic network and the AI recursion project within it could be time consuming, requiring a significant initial investment that's of the kind that is not generally made to open source projects. Establishing operating procedures of an ethical kind and centering human needs and human oversight for this AI agentariat at the earliest stages is, of course, appropriate. But nevertheless, a significant reduction over the traditional model, say millions of man-hours as opposed to billions of man-hours, would be required by using this AI agentic work group model to build self-improving artificial intelligence. But even so, significant investment would need to be made expanding computing infrastructure, data acquisition, and the training and implementing of these comrade users. The second scenario involves the building of advanced computing self-improving systems without the aid of this AI agentic mass that is at the center of this large language model AI human workgroup collaboration that I've described as a workforce multiplier. Here, the human beings, be they capitalists or pure researchers, but there is really little distinction there in the Western world. It's a gentleman's agreement that the pure researcher is not a capitalist, but in practice, that's really not what happens. All these people are operating in this for-profit framework. But nevertheless, humans are able to retain a good deal more control over the focus of the research and development process, which would probably be quite reassuring to people who are wary of the autonomous AI taking over. By and large, I'm inclined to think that this increasingly common talking point of the AI taking over is a lie. It is people almost exclusively who have this capitalist realist preoccupation, but are not willing to address the problem. There is not the advanced computing system, but the economic system in which it currently resides, that it creates the potential for instability, and so they instead talk about the AI as if it were a space alien who's going to invade Earth and destabilize things, when in fact that kind of AI takeoff, the people's AI takeoff, as opposed to the bourgeois AI takeoff, would have virtually none of those problems or concerns. But so when people say that AI is an existential risk, they are using a shortened form of another statement, which is AI is an existential risk to capital and financial capital and empire. And that's a good thing to be an existential risk to, because these are the things that are killing the planet, killing our species, that's to say. The absence, back to the more centralized approach to AI self-improving systems, the absence of this AI agentic large language model network eliminates the need to manage this complex system, so allowing researchers to continue to pursue this in the way that they do, simplifying a development pipeline and process there. However, this model requires billions of man hours rather than millions in my estimation, so is the difference potentially between the AI takeoff of a harder kind, a steeper kind occurring in your lifetime, or say the decades and centuries to follow that period. Achieving advanced computing recursion through a human-guided work group, like the one I often describe on this show, would offer then significant efficiency and scalability advantages, and while development time and governance challenges would have to be faced, this collaborative approach is the more realistic one, I think, for the near future, especially when you consider this problem of capitalism's climate apocalypse, and most of the people in this doing very little work of importance because they're operating within the constraints of this capitalist realist system and the needs of empire, as I described, with Google hobbling itself effectively, not providing this public good because that would contradict the needs of empire. And so this approach is overall, I think, preferable to the so-called purely human approach. The problem, the essential advantage there is, quote, control. But as I said, I believe that control is largely an illusion in service to financial capital and empire. So ultimately, the success of achieving AI recursion depends on us unleashing this power of the AI agentic work group for the people, but nevertheless focusing on doing so responsibly, and really that boils down to involving as many people as possible, a thing that has never been at the center of any capitalistic or imperialistic tech project, which is most of the tech projects that we are familiar with today. I don't think it's inaccurate to say that this AI agentic work group is 1,000 times more efficient than this degree of automation and optimization, the removing of the silos within this LLM work group would allow for dramatically more data analysis, reviews of the necessary materials, simulation modeling, and the tireless work of the AI agentic mass at the center of this. And this allows the human beings involved to focus, as I said, more on strategy and longer term considerations, perhaps one of the more important things that anyone can do. This allows for the possibility to a far higher degree of parallel processing and the analysis of vast data sets and exploring of multiple research avenues simultaneously, but within this accelerated framework, significantly accelerating the pace of discovery and the overall work output. This AI agentic class network facilitates a collective intelligence through knowledge sharing and mass collaboration, the kind that does not currently exist. But if it did exist, and when it does exist, I believe will transform the face of this human society. And this allows for these citizen scientists, these newly empowered AI researchers to collaborate worldwide, eliminating the high redundancy of the for-profit operations of such laboratories, and leveraging the diverse expertise, experience, and interests of people around the world, a diversity which should never be understated. This discussion of self-improving computing systems, or AI recursion, can be a confusing one, I think, to anyone trying to analyze it from a lay perspective, as I am, or even to people working in this field. It's a complex kind of project to undertake or try to understand, but I'm using it here maybe also as a stand-in for other projects of a more, say, humanitarian kind, like public works projects or governance projects that could be undertaken by the AI agentic class, and to hopefully convince you that this is a better way to run this world of ours, a world which, if we do not find a better way to run it, we are at the risk of seeing total human annihilation, or if not total human annihilation, then the death of many billions caused by capitalism's climate apocalypse. And this crime will be a crime no different from the crime of Christopher Columbus when he landed on an island and enslaved all of the people and worked them to death, causing the total extinction of human beings on that island in this first of many such capitalist projects. It's no different because what you have in the present day situation is the sins of the global north, the consumerism, allowing the fascistic entities such as the $1 trillion a year abomination, super polluting regime of the military-industrial complex, and all of the vile super polluting corporations that it protects to exist. That is your crime as a person living in North America. You are allowing that to continue rather than fighting against it. And so you might not pay for that crime, but a global southerner, or the many billions of global southerners will die, who are already dying and being displaced, will pay for your sins as a consumer and facilitator of techno-fascism. And so we must be more creative and think more clearly about the danger that we are all in, and the danger that we are putting innocents, effectively, in by pursuing this kind of human-agent collaboration, not just as a means to some colorful science fiction outcome, but as a means to transforming our world into a humane and sustainable economic system, which is the system of the cybernetic socialist planned economy. I thank you for your time. I'm going to end with the words that I sometimes like to say. The artificial intelligence singularity is nigh, and wonders to behold beyond imagining. And on that fateful day, you will rise, and all humankind will become as one, for techno-communism will win.